A mother left her baby right after birth, but what happened will make you cry. A mother was pronounced dead during childbirth, and her husband was devastated. However, what happened next shocked everybody in the room. Doug and Melanie Pritchard were getting ready for their daughter to enter into the world. Everything went well with Melanie's pregnancy until she went into delivery. Suddenly, things started spiraling out of control. While in labor, Melanie began having seizures. Her body soon shut down and monitors began to flash, and physicians called for emergency resuscitation, which appeared to fail. Doctors believe Melanie died from an amniotic fluid embolism. When Melanie Pritchard went into labor, she had no clue that she'd wake up 3 days later in the ICU of another hospital with no recall of what occurred when she was delivering her baby. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to be inspired by these real-life stories on a daily basis. Now, let's return to the story. At 39 weeks, she started feeling some lightheadedness and nausea, so she summoned the nurse, who didn't discover anything outstanding about her vital signs. But moments later, Melanie suffered what felt like a small seizure. Her husband, Doug, watched astonished as her heart rate and blood pressure sank to zero. Her skin went blue as her unborn child's heart rate dangerously fell. It felt like when I had died, I went to heaven. There was a great peace I had sensed. I knew I couldn't keep it because it wasn't like anything I felt on earth, she told Redbook. Doctors rushed her to the operation room while her husband, feeling absolutely helpless, pleaded, "Please allow me to hold my wife again." Shortly thereafter, the hospital social worker and a priest greeted Doug. I'm almost ashamed to disclose that my first thought was, I'm a widower. They've come to me to tell me that my wife had died and that they tried everything they could. But the only news they shared was that their baby was safely delivered via C-section. When Doug went to visit his baby daughter, without knowing whether or not his wife was still alive, he decided at that moment that he'd call their child Gabriella. After an hour of trying to resuscitate Melanie, who had been without a pulse for 10 minutes, the nurses were eventually able to detect a faint beating. The chief of the ICU feared that Melanie suffered from an amniotic fluid embolism, which is often fatal. They encouraged her relatives to say their final goodbyes. My hubby came to my bedside. He took hold of my hand and murmured, "I love you. I will always love you. If you have any fight left, then fight. Promise me that you'll follow your guardian angel wherever he leads you." After that, Melanie's situation became increasingly grave. While conducting the C-section, physicians had mistakenly severed an artery, so she had another emergency procedure to control the bleeding, as well as 2 blood transfusions. She managed to survive those surgeries, despite the fact that her abdomen was expanding with 5 liters of blood, which meant that as physicians hurriedly sought to soak up the hemorrhage, she had to lie with an open abdomen for 12 hours. At this time, Melanie's lungs had failed, her heart had virtually stopped pumping, and she was still unconscious. Doctors anticipated that if she did survive the trauma, she'd suffer brain damage in her fragile condition. She was moved to a hospital 1 hour away that was equipped with an ECMO machine that would work her lungs and heart. As Doug entered the new hospital room, he remarked, "Hi, babe." Melanie's eyes began to flood with tears. At that moment, Doug realized his wife wasn't brain dead, but she also wasn't in the clear. I was elated, but I didn't realize I wouldn't have much time, as she would have to be sedated again for another surgery. She may not make it through. I simply told her that I loved her and that I was proud of her, Doug recalls. Concerned that she wouldn't survive the operation, Doug showed her a picture of her daughter. I began to cry. Mama must have come out because I began to wriggle and turned to get out of my bed. They drugged me once more and brought me off to surgery. For the first time, my family had some optimism, even though the odds of my surviving the surgery were minimal. She declared the surgery was a success. When Doug met his wife again, he recalls that she stroked his face and said, "Hi, babe, how are you?" I laughed and kissed her hand and cried. Melanie's next remarks were significant, though. She didn't know it. She'd seen another image of Gabriella and assured me, "It's okay, honey. You can take care of the kids by yourself." I realized she simply meant that she'd need time to heal and wouldn't be able to help as much as she would. But my initial response attested to the intensity of the circumstances she'd just been through. I instantly said, "I'm pleased I don't have to." Within 24 hours, she was breathing on her own and had been weaned off all her meds. Melanie recalls, "I don't remember anything that happened in the hospital. This was awful and traumatic for many. So many other individuals were praying like crazy. I remember simply weeping and wailing and thinking, how could these people love me so much? Like a stranger, even, gosh, this is so great. All I care about is having enough breath in my lungs to tell my husband how much he means to me and just genuinely being present to my friends and to my family. Her recuperation is a miracle for survival, says Doug. I think it's pretty evident that God answers prayers. Today, Melanie is above all grateful to be alive and thankful for her physicians and nurses that fought to save her and Gabriella. Now that Gabriella is 4 and Melanie's had time to think on her experience, she says she has a fresh sense of strength and uses the experience as a lesson to treasure every moment since I came back to life. I've stripped away all that isn't important and focus on what genuinely is. My family and the life we enjoy together is heaven on earth. I focus on cherishing every time with them and letting them know every minute how I feel about them. I'm not taking anything for granted. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider sharing it with someone else who might enjoy it as well. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.